Fox News is now streaming live on Fox One. When it matters most, turn to the voices you trust. We go beyond the headlines, bringing you the stories you won't hear anywhere else. Live coverage, sharp analysis, real perspective. At home or on the go. Stay connected when it counts. Stream Fox News on Fox One. Download today.
The Larry Kudlow Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do some money in politics. We've got a number of topics, but it's going to be war-related. Liz Peek is here, Fox News contributor, financial author, commentator. The great Steve Forbes is here, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media. And Steve's last book was Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, How to Fix It. Liz, did you read the David Boies op-ed in the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I did.
I just thought
it was great.
Fabulous. And I talked a lot about it on the TV last night. We talked a lot about it here on the radio, including Jack Keane. I mean, he doesn't like Trump. You know, I know David. You probably may know him. Both of you may know him. He's a brilliant defense lawyer. He's a Democrat, active Democrat, liberal Democrat. But what he's saying, you know, take partisanship out of this. Stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions, stopping their terrorism is vital to America's, you know, freedom, health, and wealth. He just came right out and said it. All these presidents in both parties talked about it for 50 years. Nobody did anything about it until Donald Trump. Let's help him on the war. I mean, it's really quite remarkable. It's, you know, Liz, it's like it's what Boies did is what's missing from society today. Yeah. We used to have these kinds of bipartisanship. It stops at the water's edge kind of thing. I don't know. I wanted to get your take. I'm going to ask Steve Forbes the same thing just because I think it's so unusual. That's all.
Well, I think what it really highlights is that the media and Democrats are putting Donald Trump first. It's all about Donald Trump and his personality and the fact that they hate him, and very little reckoning or thought is given to what are we doing this for? Why is it appropriate to declare war on Iran? Well, because everybody, as Boies points out, every president has said they have intoned very solemnly Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, but do nothing about it. And as he points out, Obama had this ridiculous approach that, Iran, if it just was treated nicely enough, was going to become a friend of the United States. No. And by the way, he didn't mention, and I think it's worth asking, does anyone ever question why is it that from the beginning of the Iranian Revolution, death to America and death to Israel is their number one guiding principle? How about building up our own country? How about working with the other countries in our region to foment prosperity and a happy life for our people? I mean, it's a bizarre country guided by one overweening ambition, which is to fight against Israel and the United States. And anyone who doesn't see that is blinded, as Boies sort of says, by hatred of Donald Trump.
You know, Steve Forbes, by the way, 100%. Amen, Liz. Thank you. But Steve Forbes, if Obama had done what Trump had done, military invasion, you'd have you and I, we would have bitten our lips, but we would have backed him on it because it's the right thing to do. Okay? I mean, if Joe Biden had decided to lower marginal tax rates, we might not have believed him, but we would have said, good idea. You see what I'm saying? There was a time, all I'm saying, Steve, is this. I'm selling this. There was a time in America where good policies were applauded by people in both parties, regardless of the parties. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, you're right, and if Barack Obama had gone against Iran, that would have been a miracle. Amazingly, Larry, Barack Obama wanted Iran to be the dominant power in the Middle East. He did not like Israel, did not like the Arabs, and incredibly, he wanted this terrorist state to be the dominant power. Absolutely perverse. And that's why one reason why history is going to judge his presidency to have been an absolute failure in that. And in terms of what we're seeing today really has its origins, and I'm old enough to remember it, back in the 1960s when the opposition to the Vietnam War. Up to then, partisanship stopped at the water's edge, and you had Democrats, John Kennedy was one, Henry Jackson, the great senator from the state of Washington, another, who put partisanship aside when it came to national security. That sort of got really battered in the 1960s, and the Democrats, who started that war, haven't recovered from it since. So I wish the president would, and we've discussed this before, sit behind a desk, not a podium, and calmly go through with the American people why we have to do this. The American people, I saw this with Richard Nixon back in the late 60s when there's powerful opposition to the war. He made a national address, and people cut him slack in time. The American people will do it if they understand the context in which we're operating. The other thing that I hope the president does in that address is say that the TSA agents at the airport, you want to know why the airport problems, are not getting paid. We've proposed to Congress to do it. The Democrats are blocking it. Write your Democrat congressman or congressperson or senator and say, why are you not allowing the TSA agents to be paid so we can have a functioning airport system again? I guarantee you overnight you would see a profound shift on that, and the Democrats would pass the funding bill. So address to the nation, put it in context, and you'll see this thing turn around very rapidly. And then in the next couple of months, we got a surprise with the intensity of the Iranians doing what they're doing in the Strait of Hormuz, but we're dealing with it, and we'll deal with it. And in a couple of months, hopefully this thing will be over. And one other quick thing, Larry, on that. It's very important that we be seen as seeing this thing through with Iran, because when President Trump goes to China in April, one of the things the Chinese are going to be fishing about would we really come to the aid of Taiwan if they not just attacked it but blockade it? And what the president would have credibility in conveying to Xi Jinping is if you block Taiwan, we'll break that blockade just as we did. We broke the blockade of Joseph Stalin, the Soviet Union, against Berlin in the late 1940s. If he goes into that meeting with the credibility of seeing it through with Iran, he will have the credibility to make that a statement, something the Chinese will take very seriously.
He has addressed that. I mean, he said he's seeing it through. I mean, I don't see any evidence that he's not going to see it through.
But the deed, but this is where the media is, we've discussed this, not helping, is makes it sound like the war is not going well, blah, blah, blah. And that's why if every day that he does something like Carg Island and we take out these abilities to blob those drones and we destroy the factories that make those drones, not just the inventories, in the next few weeks, I guess he's going over in mid-April, whenever, he'll have it done. And that's the key thing. Not just saying it, but here it is. We took him out.
Well, McLaughlin's poll.
I was just going to say.
McLaughlin's poll, incredible how much support he's getting and growing. I mean, that poll's incredible.
But, Larry, can I just following up on Steve said and what you just said, yes, the McLaughlin poll shows the majority of the country supports this war, but when provided with sort of the detail on the history of Iran and how it has killed Americans and so forth, that support grows enormously. So to Steve's point, I think it cannot be said enough because the media is not going there. If President Trump sat behind a desk, I think that's a good idea, and said, here is why we are feeling vindicated in attacking Iran. Here's what they've done in the past. Here's what we fear they could do in the future. And I think bring Americans around to understanding why this is such an important undertaking.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he's going to make a speech. I myself like him in real time. Doing what he does, it's kind of his.
One doesn't preclude the other.
No, you're right. I mean, in a sense, it's a wrap up, is what if he wanted to do it. But I don't know. He's given a couple of speeches like that. Gave a speech on the economy. It's pretty good. I thought the State of the Union speech was fabulous, bonkers, a real stem winder. It's funny. We were all talking, but now no one's talking about that. No one even remembers it. But it was a hell of a speech. So he can do it if he wants to do it, but he also likes to deal with the press. Look, what's his name? Jonathan, what's his name from ABC said he's called Trump 3 times since the war started, and Trump answered the phone every time and talked to him and gets a message out. And most reporters, they will report that. Now, there's bad coverage. I know The Wall Street Journal is among the worst. The New York Times may be the worst. Not the editorial page. The editorial page backs the war. The front page of the journal's making out terrible, terrible mistakes, but we don't have to go there. But the McLaughlin poll shows, I bet you, I'm just going to say, Liz, the more this thing, another week or so, the more coming out, the more victorious we are, as it becomes very, very clear that the things Mr. Trump and the Joint Chiefs have been saying about the success, I think this is a huge victory. And the Democrats are in deep trouble on this war. They are just from war. Their opposition to this war is just going to kill them in the midterm elections. It's a sleeper issue. Actually, Kellyanne said last night in the show it's not a sleeper anymore. But, I mean, just saying, I'm looking down the road. I know the economy is going to be crucial, real incomes and so forth. I get that. But this war, wow, I think this is an issue that's going to help the GOP enormously.
Well, to the extent that the far left in the Democratic Party, which has now become the Democratic Party, it continues to, in effect, support the opposition to the war.
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't know what the heck they're doing. And meanwhile, it's not just in Iran anymore. It's also here. We've had 4 terrorist attacks in the United States, and the coverage of those has been equally uneven and basically acting like it's perfectly okay that people are about to throw a bomb at protesters in front of Gracie Mansion. These ISIS-inspired people, maybe people are going to start to remember, 9/11 was something that actually killed thousands of Americans. And guess what? A lot of us haven't forgotten about that. So the pretense that these are perfectly normal young people who just, had a little bit of a quirky, misstep along the way. No, this is a defiant and now very overt element in the Democratic Party that hates Israel, hates Jews, and now is almost inextricably linked with some of the worst elements basically in the terrorist archipelago. I mean, you've got ISIS-inspired people, Hamas-inspired people. Holy crow, don't Americans get that these are really bad people and they want to kill us?
The far left, sadly, also hates America the way America is today.
Yes,
they hate America.
I agree.
It's not just Israel.
We're the
they
colonizers.
Hate America.
By the way,
we're the bad guys.
But David Boies included the why is there so much anti-Semitism? He's right. Steve's right. But, the anti-Semitism is a disease. I thought it came out of DEI, Biden's DEI. I know it didn't start with Biden, but it's been growing for years. So is DEI, was the progenitor of anti-Semitism. And unfortunately, even though Mr. Trump has turned things around culturally, I don't think that the anti-Semitism is gone by any stretch. I don't think so.
No.
And that's and you're right, Steve. That's part of hating America. I agree. The two go hand in hand. There's no question about that. But it's a tragedy. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are tragic about it.
Well, it's inexplicable considering what happened in the 30s and 40s. That this thing would even be tolerated by the regular media for 1 second. It should be denounced vigorously each and every day, every second. That's horrible. And we have a mayor of New York who glorifies it. It's scandalous.
But Steve, it's partly about education. People don't even know what happened in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. I mean, that we are having entire slates of world history wiped clean in purpose of a message and an ideological shift, which is very anti-American. We're the bad guys. We're the colonists, as is Israel. I mean, it's a pretty extraordinary thing, and they've been quite successful at that.
Steve Forbes, it's sort of interesting. So let's put all of us, it's now 1940, 39, 40, 41, and Roosevelt starts understanding and moving towards Churchill's position against the Nazis. Okay. You and I, Steve, would have, and Liz, would have spent the prior 10 years criticizing the New Deal, right? high taxes, more spending.
Yep.
We would not have liked, and we would have said so. But then comes the war and Nazism and fascism and Churchillism, and Roosevelt moves in the right direction. So,
yes, he does. And you know
right?
how he showed it? You know how he showed it? He appointed as War Secretary.
Yes.
We had the War Department then.
Yes.
A fellow named Henry Stimson.
Henry Stimson. That's
who
right.
was Secretary of War for Taft and Secretary of State for Herbert Hoover.
Yes.
Roosevelt's chief opponent. Roosevelt appoints him in the key position of Secretary of War. He realized the threat. He stopped his anti-business jihads and worked with the private sector, which is why we had the amazing production during the war. He saw the light.
So we would have backed him. We would have backed him
100%.
I know. You're 100%. It's just that you're kind of waiting for that to happen now. It just hasn't happened yet. We're really kind of talking about why partisanship can be bad. If somebody on the other aisle does something good, back them. And I guess the genesis of this was the David Boies editorial, which was very, very good. So we've had some interesting. We got Liz Peek here, Fox News contributor, and we got the great Steve Forbes. So, Steve, I want to continue this. I didn't know Henry Stimson. I wish I had, by the way. But they did bring in John J. McCloy. They brought in Forrestal. A lot of Republicans came into the cabinet. You're 100% right. Now, let's switch gears. Let's move ahead. History. JFK. So JFK gives a speech at Yale, and he announces that his Republican, Treasury Secretary, what's his name?
Douglas Dillon.
Douglas Dillon, thank you. From the same firm, I might add, as Forrestal, Dillon Reed. But So Doug Dillon persuades JFK. Doug Dillon, the Republican in the Democratic cabinet, persuades the Democratic president to cut tax rates. And the Republican Party, at least most of its party, Steve Forbes, opposed it.
They did indeed.
You and I would have backed it. You and I would have backed it if we were old enough, which we weren't quite.
And then to give a bow to my late great father, he did back it. Forbes magazine backed those tax cuts. When the rest of the conservatives saying no, we got to balance the budget.
That's
first.
right. They said it would create deficits.
and that was the great mistake of the great president Dwight Eisenhower. Was he thought you had to balance the budget first for a big tax cut. And Dillon and others persuaded. You wrote the book on it.
By the way, Humphrey,
George
Humphrey, the Treasury Secretary under Ike, was a tax cutter, but Arthur Burns and some of the others opposed it, so Ike didn't go with it. But Doug Dillon, it's funny, Dillon Reed used to be such a great firm, Liz Peek. But Liz Peek, you would have backed the right thing. You don't care what party they're from, right?
Oh, well.
Say yes.
Yes. I would hope I would have backed that. But backing taxes, I mean, this is a really different thing, Larry. When your men and women in uniform are risking their lives in a military mission, yes, it was the case during Vietnam that people did not line up in support of that endeavor. But, my God, the treatment of veterans coming home was the most despicable thing I've ever seen in my life. And I thought we had gone beyond that. I thought the entire country had kind of assumed a higher moral ground and say, we back our country, we back our fighters, and we'll also prioritize taking care of our veterans, which we do. I mean, we spend a tremendous amount of money on veterans, not ever enough, but it's pretty good. Anyway, I'm really kind of fired up about the fact that there are so many Chris Murphys out there saying completely stupid and unwarranted things, undermining the morale of our troops. What about that? What about if you're over there and you're seeing this stuff from the likes of Chris Murphy, the wingnut from Connecticut, senator? You know, I think it's really bad.
Well, that's probably absolutely the prototype of what David Boies was railing against.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that'd be my guess, and you're quite right. Look at this I don't know, one-day story. The Hegseth trying to give the troops some decent food, lobster, steak, whatever. Yeah. They always do that. And the Democrats jumped all over it and tried to make it an issue. We've done this for 1,000,000 years, and it's the right thing to do, for God's sake. That's one of the things here, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous ridiculous story that went around talking, and the liberal media made it out that it was actually Pete Hegseth on the receiving end of it. Good grief.
Thank you, Liz Peek. Thank you, Steve Forbes. Steve, I'm so thrilled your father backed the tax cuts. It's terrific stuff. Love that. I'm Kudlow.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.